Isaiah 40:26 is a wonderful recommendation on how we can appreciate creation even more. And when we lift up our eyes and see Jehovah's creation, it does build within us an appreciation for Jehovah, and it builds our faith, and we draw closer to him as a result. But today I would like to talk about lifting up our eyes. That's what Isaiah 40:26 says, lifting up our eyes in another way. Lifting up our eyes to recognize Jehovah's sovereignty in our life each day. And sometimes it's each moment of the day. Now, when preparing this information on the subject of sovereignty, I couldn't help but think about the Caleb and Sophia video. It's entitled, "Make Jehovah Happy." Perhaps you remember it. Depicted in the video was Caleb facing a temptation in his life. And remember what he did when he was tempted? He looked up. He looked up in full recognition of Jehovah's sovereignty. And when Caleb looked up, what did he see? Well, he saw in his mind's eye myriads of angels cheering him on to do what is right in Jehovah's eyes. They were urging him to stand up for Jehovah's sovereignty, make Jehovah's heart glad. Caleb did what was right. And what was the reaction of those heavenly spirit creatures observing him in this temptation? Well, the angels rejoiced because Caleb stood up for Jehovah's sovereignty. And most importantly, he made Jehovah's heart glad so that Jehovah could give a reply to the one that taunts him. Now, that was an animated depiction, and it's cute, but the point is very clear. And that is basically, this is the scenario that we face each day of our life, sometimes each moment of our life as we serve Jehovah. Who do we want to rule us? Who do we want to be our sovereign? Who are we going to make rejoice? Whenever we watch television, when we surf the internet, when we decide what to wear, what movie to watch, how to dress, groom ourselves, how much we're going to drink, whether we won't drink, well, will we look up? Will we lift up our eyes? Will we recognize Jehovah's sovereignty in our life, or will we look down and perhaps only see ourselves? In every aspect of life, we have to look up. We have to prove by our choices and our decisions that we want Jehovah to be our ruler. We want Jehovah to be our sovereign. Now, I'd like to briefly discuss two Bible examples that illustrate the blessings of looking up, recognizing Jehovah's sovereignty, and the disastrous consequences that result when we look down and perhaps only see ourselves. These are familiar examples, but they make our point. The first example is that of David and his encounter with Bathsheba. Now, we're familiar with that. It's recorded in 2 Samuel chapter 11. We might turn our Bibles there. 2 Samuel chapter 11. Now, you might remember in verse number 1, it speaks of David's men going to war, fighting the Ammonites, but David stayed back. He stayed home. The 1967 Watchtower suggests that possibly he was home taking it easy. Well, could this have been an indication that David was beginning to look down? Well, in verse 2, he really looks down. It says, "One evening, David got up from his bed and walked around on the rooftop of the king's house. From the rooftop, he saw a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful." As David was looking down, he was becoming more and more absorbed with himself and his own desires. David was beginning to choose another sovereign. Well, note what happens as he keeps looking down. Verse 3 says, David sent someone to inquire about the woman. They mention that this is Bathsheba. Verse 4 then says, David sent messengers to bring her, so she came into him, and he lay down with her. Well, we know the rest of the story. The adultery eventually leads to the death of Bathsheba's husband, Uriah. So David was looking down. David had trouble in his life or in his house for the rest of his life. These are the disastrous consequences when we look down, when we choose another sovereign in our life.